I'd like to talk about the importance of establishing an effective working relationship with your allocated supervisor. It really is important that you understand how the nature of that relationship should be, that you don't have unrealistic expectations about what your supervisor should be doing for you. And it's also important to understand that it's very much about what you, as the supervisee, bring to the table as well. One of the most important things I can stress in regard to the latter is that you always go in as prepared as possible for any meeting that you have with your supervisor, because the more you put in, infinitely more you will get out of that. If you go in and simply say, I don't know what to do, I'm lost, I'm stuck, you're not going to get much back from your supervisor. If you go in and discuss possibilities, even if you're not sure where you want to go, whatever stage of the dissertation you're at, then the more you bring to the table, the more your supervisor will be compelled to give you something back. That's inevitable, that's human nature. Peter Levin, in his book Excellent Dissertations, identifies 4 useful things that supervisors themselves can bring to the table when they're supervising their students. One of them, sympathy and encouragement, particularly if things are going wrong. Sympathy, encouragement, getting you back on track when you've had setbacks. That can be useful. Obviously, expertise in the field, a good knowledge of the literature of the subject, etc. Perhaps not having expertise in the field, he suggests, is significant as well. It's not ever so important. They may be able to offer good general advice, e.g. on methodology, planning, structuring your work and so forth. And also acting as a sounding board, someone who acts as a sounding board for your thinking. What you're bringing to the table, then they can comment on it. I think the important thing to stress is it's very unlikely you'll find a supervisor that will do all 4 of those things. You might find someone who does 3 or only 2 of those things, but I think it's important to remember that even if they don't have expertise in the field, even if they're not particularly good at the sympathy and encouragement aspect, they will be able to give something. So it's very important that you don't end up thinking that expertise in the field is essential, or that they're going to provide kind of like something for you to lean on if things aren't going right. It's human nature. Different people get on with, different people have different personalities, different people get on with people in different ways. It is very important, I think, to think in terms of independent learning. It is all about independent learning, and therefore your supervisor will be able to provide guidance at appropriate points. But I'd really like to stress, the more you bring to the table, the more the supervisor will be able to offer you something back. One final suggestion with regard to an effective working relationship with the supervisor is I suggest to you that certainly immediately after your meeting with your supervisor, it really is worthwhile, while memory of that meeting is fresh in your head, for you to jot down a set of key bullet points on what was agreed from that session. This is because if you leave it any length of time, it's so easy to forget, and if you don't bother recording it at all, it's a recipe for potential disaster, because several weeks down the line, several months down the line even, you may be in a position where you suddenly find your supervisor thinks that your project is about something quite a bit different from what you think it's about. So it's a really useful idea, I think, to record while it's fresh in the head exactly what was agreed, and you can even email that to your supervisor to double check that their understanding is the same as yours. If your supervisor is willing, you might even think about recording your conversation with the supervisor so that you have a definitive record of what was agreed, and I think that's really helpful for ensuring that you're moving on in parallel rather than diverging completely in terms of what you and your supervisor think your project is about.